Hello, my name is Jacob and welcome to the channel. Today I'm with Gorcin and we're going to play Wings of Glory WW2.
We've got the Battle of Britain starter set today. We've got two Messerschmitt Bf-109s and two Mark I Spitfires. Let's get into it. So Wings of Glory is a 1/200 scale aerial dogfighting game. The miniatures come pre-painted and based, and they come with everything that you need to start playing right away with those miniatures. Every miniature comes in a pack. In the pack you get the miniature, you get some flight stands and a base. Additionally, and most importantly, you get your maneuver deck. This is what you actually use to control your aircraft. And so that means you don't have to worry about tape measures or anything like that. This game's really got a lot of nice game aids that keep the game flowing and moving. This little picture here is got most of your stats of your plane. You've got your health, your maneuver deck, and the sort of damage that you do at different ranges. And your maneuver deck has two different colored arrows. That's for some of the more advanced rules. Because we're sticking with the basic rules, we're going to stick with the blue arrow. And the great thing is, since most decks have unique maneuvers in them, and most aircraft have their own deck, you can actually get some nice tricks that you can play against your opponent that they might not be expecting, such as the Mark I Spitfire, or most Spitfires actually, get a nice little barrel roll maneuver, and you can use that to get into and out of some pretty tricky situations.
Welcome to a simple turn of Wings of Glory. We're going to show you the three phases of the game, which is planning, movement, and shooting. The first, you have to choose from your maneuver deck what kind of move you'd like to do. You place this face down on your cockpit, and moves happen simultaneously. So once your opponent is ready, you place your movement token next to the tip of your plane with this little indicator at the front, and you match that up with the arrow that you're following, and we move our plane base to touch the end of the arrow. After the movement is complete, we check for ranges to see if we are in combat. You measure this from the base of the peg from one plane, and to see if anything within the arc represented on the base can hit this plane. So in this instance, the Spitfire is in range of shooting the Messerschmitt. The Messerschmitt, unfortunately, has no arc of the Spitfire, and because this is within half range, denoted by this indicator on the ruler, the Messerschmitt is taking a close damage result, which in this case is 2 B markers. And these are drawn at random, and we check for damage on the plane. The damage is kept secret from the opponent until the entire hit points of the plane has wiped it out. All of these moves happen simultaneously. This is looped throughout the process of playing the game until the objective is retrieved or the enemy's planes or your own are shot down.
So the miniatures decks don't actually contain everything you need to play, but they've got most of it. In the starter set, you get some bomb cards if you're going to do some ground attack runs, and you've also got ground targets, which are actually two-sided. So you've got some suburbs and buildings on one side, you've got some sort of infantry on the other side. Additionally, you get, this is your range token. This is the closest thing to a tape measure you'll need. Replacing the dice, you've got these damage tokens. So different aircraft use different damage tokens, and they have different values on them. And so this sort of replaces a dice rolling mechanic. And that's how you deal damage to your opponent. Finally, in a nice sort of neat way, you get a little cockpit that allows you to control your aircraft and keep track of what it is that you're doing and where you're going.
Okay, here we are playing Wings of Glory World War II. Right now, we're choosing our maneuvers. We choose these one at a time in a simple rule set, and we deal our cards simultaneously after we've decided what we're doing. You match your movement card to the base of the plane. There's a little notch at the front of your plane, and you match that notch to the movement arrow that you're doing. You grab your plane and move it to the arrow again. And you check if any of these planes are within range. You measure that from the base pip, have a look at the range marker, and here we have both our planes both in range of each other. This is at long range, and we're seeing what damage is dealt. On the playing cards themselves, you have a short range damage and a long range damage. We're both at long range, which is over half, and we both get to deal the damage token that is next to the long range marker. So if the Messerschmitt is dealing 1 C card, which is of random, give 1 to Gorcin, he checks his health, and hopefully he's still in play. But he keeps that damage separate and secret from me until he has hit his hit points. Now, Gorcin, you've also dealt some damage to me. What am I drawing here?
So you're drawing 1 B token because you're at long range.
And looking at the B, this is as much damage as I've taken on my Messerschmitt. However, that is not a kill, and my hit points are 17. So, we played our first turn. We moved that movement token into the second part of the cockpit, and now we pick another card.
So I've just committed a cardinal sin as a Spitfire pilot. The Messerschmitt 109 outguns me, but I outmaneuver it, and all I've done is I've put myself in its firing arc. That's probably the single worst thing you can do against somebody who's got better guns than you do.
Well, we'll see if you slip away, or if I get another shot at you. So you're ready to reveal your card?
Let's do it.
Alright. Messerschmitt is moving at full speed ahead, completely missing the Spitfire.
So
however, I believe Gorcin knows exactly what move I'm doing next. I've committed to a full straight, which is the likely event that I'm going to perform a flip maneuver.
Or an imminent turn.
Or an imminent. And let's see and place our cards and see what happens next. So, you guys watching, this map here that we have right here is just a simple printout, a bit of Photoshop work from Gorcin. Had a look at a few Google Maps of Britain. He's spliced this together, printed it out at the local office works, and we're using it as a game map. And it really serves us well for a Battle of Britain campaign event that we ran at the Rockingham Historical Games Club. Let's reveal our tokens.
Yeah, so this is technically an indoor banner as opposed to a game map, but I think it's serving quite a great purpose. What I tried to do here was I tried to sort of find some archival Luftwaffe footage of some bombing runs that they did over London during the Blitz. And this area is sort of known as Battersea. You can actually see sort of Buckingham Palace, and there's a power station around here in the hospital. So this was actually based off one of the photos that I found of some aerial reconnaissance. If you do find them, be mindful that they're about 48 kilobytes, the original photos.
Wow, yeah, so pretty pixelated. But yeah, I'm quite impressed with this map, and especially for the price, because a lot of the gaming maps out there do cost several hundred, especially in Australia. Sorry, I'm still picking my movement card because I can't quite see where I'm moving. Okay, we're ready to go.
Well, one of the advices one of my friends gave me was that if you are facing sort of the wrong way to your plane, you can actually just sort of turn around, put your back to the game board, and then try to pick the direction that you're turning.
Yeah, I've heard that one too, and I still flip my cards around the wrong way. Are we in arc for any shots here? I think you might be.
Yeah, that's looking like a pretty dangerous position to be in.
You're taking another one of these C damage tokens, Gorcin.
Yeah, guys, and these really hurt. I'm still flying, but that's sort of between me and the camera at the moment.
Yeah, you're doing fine, aren't you? Good work, Bluffy. Alright, so we're still moving around.
So one of the things that we found made the game a lot easier when you're getting to sort of larger play numbers. You know, that the game that we played on the day was 8 players. We found it was easier if you stuck your maneuver card next to your plane instead of your cockpit.
Definitely, it was just much easier and got us right into the action. You're really not doing so great here. I'm continuing to move right behind you.
I don't want to get caught in that straight because you'll just I'll get into short range and that'll be game over for me. But it's not
another long range hit with a C marker, and of course the C is the 20mm cannon.
And I think that's going to be game, Jacob. There's an 8.
An 8.
There's a 5, gives you 13. There's another 8.
And don't worry, it was really close to the 4, mate.
That's what you get when you take 303 rifle caliber machine guns against purpose-built 20mm cannons.
But as you can see, this is a very quick game. You're using measurement cards to note your movement. You're dealing damage cards to see what damage you're doing. You don't need dice, you don't need tape measures, you don't need to paint the models. It's really quick and easy. This is very much an entry point into wargaming. However, we run a historical club that's focused on bolt action, chain of command, and a number of more complicated war games, and we love fitting this in between our big, long 2-3 hour games. Fit this in for a nice palate cleanser, but we are quite fans of it. We run quite big events like this Battle for Britain campaign.
Yeah, and as you sort of alluded to, this is actually quite an affordable game to get into. If you're looking at the Battle of Britain starter set, you can pick one up for about $130, and that's enough to get 4 people playing straight away. It's got everything you need in the box. If you want to play around with some of the mats, this one here cost about $50 and a couple hours in Photoshop to put together. And if in each individual plane, after you've got a starter set, it's about $30 a plane. And if you hunt around, you can probably find some pretty cheap deals there. So it's just a great, fun pickup game to just get involved and play.
Thanks for the game.
Thanks for the game, Jacob.
Yeah, that was really great. So this is Wings of Glory, and we were playing in the standard rules.
It was the basic rule set, actually.
Yeah, the basic rules. Yeah.
So that's sort of what I really like about Wings of Glory, is that the basic rules are really basic, and they don't sort of detract from the experience. It's a nice, fun entry point. I mean, I've run the basic rules with people who've never even played war games before. People who don't even understand things like D6 or damage or hit points or even turns. They've come in 5 minutes, they're playing this game, and we've had great times. I've even run some sort of complex bombing scenarios with those guys, and they've just lapped it up every minute.
It's definitely true. We've recently introduced Wings of Glory into our historical club, the Rockingham Historical Gamers. A couple of us have bought into the starter sets. Obviously, you've made this lovely terrain piece for us to use, but we use it to introduce our brand new people who are joining the club, who may not have some of the traditional stuff we play, like bolt action, chain of command, and not have that big painted force, or maybe even dice mechanics. A large rulebook that's 200 pages long is just too intimidating. This is really our kind of entry point to people that do have that interest in history, but maybe have not quite bridged the gap to play that more advanced stuff. So I pretty much demo it as often as I can, mainly for the fact we have new people coming in who've never tried this stuff before. They try Wings, they fall in love, then they want to explore everything else to do with that conflict.
It's a great gateway drug.
It is. And from this, I actually am a person who have zero interest in aerial, aviation, any of this kind of stuff. I've always had an interest in World War II conflict, but mostly at the infantry level, the tanks and those kind of things. But playing this game once with you, I've completely fallen in love with that part of history and research on YouTube and these kind of things of the make of planes, how they happened, how they affected the war, and there's a lot of great content out there specifically on the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. So I think one of the channels that I really like on this sort of front is military aviation history.
Yes.
I'm sort of coming in the same sort of background as you. I was really interested in some of the small arm stuff. I've recently graduated, if you like, into tanks and some armoured combat. I'm still learning a lot there, but I've held on to this little starter set for about a year. I played it at PAX, I think it was 2018, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, I just got to get the starter set, I got to get people playing, and being down at the club, having a chance to demo it to the guys, it really sort of did the same thing for me. It really sort of captured a lot of this. I think that's often underappreciated side of a lot of the combat and the history, particularly military history, if you're into that. And you touch on some of the more complex games that some people might play, like bolt action, or if you want to go a step further, in like chain of command.
Yep.
I've read through the chain of command rulebook and haven't had an opportunity to play it, but
Yep.
it's quite complex. And,
definitely.
you're talking about, I think it's like 100 and 150 page rulebook.
Yeah.
And it naturally does a really good job of trying to capture sort of the infantry stuff. But when you look at the Wings of Glory rulebook, start to finish, scenarios, context, basic, standard, and advanced rules and special abilities and named pilots. I think it's 60 pages cover to cover.
Yeah.
And somehow they also capture, the really complex and nuanced parts of the history. Things like climb rates that different planes maneuver differently and have different sort of engine power and armaments. And I think because they've compartmentalized things into decks and tokens and game aids, you can bring that depth without the complexity.
It's really interesting. Every time that I hear somebody talk about Wings of Glory, they do mention that there's quite a bit of,
accuracy?
Yeah, I'm trying to say research, really.
Yeah.
And people have this impression that, the maneuvers that are placed are maneuvers that only that plane could do. Certain planes can only drift left, or certain planes can only drift right. Some are more agile than others, and all this kind of thing. And World War II isn't the only theatre that they cover. Actually, it is predominantly a World War I experience.
Yeah, so I think Wings of Glory World War II is actually the smaller sort of subset from Ares games. But I think, when you talk about classical movies like Spitfire from the 60s, and you talk about a lot of the other sorts of stuff, and you talk about the imagery of the aerial combat, a lot of people, I think, more readily connect with World War II aerial combat than they do World War I. And I think I enjoy the World War I game as well.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It operates under the same principles. So a few of the game aids are a little bit different, but not fundamentally.
Yeah, but pretty much World War I and World War II, we've had great success with just demoing it to people who've never tried this kind of stuff. And it's really to do with the simplicity of the movement cards. You don't need a quick reference sheet or anything like this. It's place your movement card and move your plane where it tells you to, and shoot things that are in arc. It's just so simple in that manner. I know that I'm actually really excited to learn the advanced rules with you at some point. But that sort of thing is just really, it's just simple and interesting, and I've just had a ball playing this game.
Yeah, and I don't know how they've quite sort of achieved it. I might have alluded to at this point, but the complexity in the game comes in thinking about the capabilities of your plane, the capabilities of your pilot, and your opponent and their plane, and trying to find out where you have advantages and where you have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so the complexity in the game isn't, do I reference table 7 on page 14, or do I reference appendix C on page 64? The complexity goes, how do I actually beat my opponent? Is he going to fly aggressively? Is he going to fly passively?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where the real enjoyment is, because you get this sort of interaction with your opponent as opposed to interaction just with the board game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's more to it than just understanding the exact movements that the enemy plane can do and trying to visualize that in the space, because there's also speeds. So are they going to move slow? Are they going to move fast? And these kind of things. And the advanced rules, there's altitude and this kind of stuff. I want to explore that and see how that works. But we are also thinking of integrating this with a lot of the other games that we play. So the dream is that we have a bolt action campaign that goes over several days. We kind of have an aerial battle that happens first, and then assuming that there's a victor, surely there is. You can add additions into the bold action game. Perhaps the allies win, they get a free airstrike at the beginning of the match, something like this.
Yeah, so we're really sort of looking forward to that with this sort of North Africa campaign that we're going to be running next. That's going to be predominantly bolt action, but we're going to work in some Wings of Glory there, and then That's going to follow, I think, some of the more earlier engagements in North Africa, and then after that, I think we're planning on doing some Tunisian chain of command. And having spoken to the guys who are running at the club, they really want to weave in Wings of Glory every step of the way.
Definitely.
And because of how easy and quick the game is to play, and as you said, it's sort of a nice palate cleanser. The guys who are there playing chain of command, you go, here's a plane, here's a maneuver deck, here's the 2 minutes how to play the game. Decide what happens. And I think it's again sort of bringing that engagement and really translating that warfare is a three-dimensional thing. It's four-dimensional if you talk about time and the other things. It's it's not a game of just moving your squads and can you shoot and hit. It's also how's your air cover, how's your logistics, how's your supply, how's your morale. It's going to be really exciting to work that in.
Well, I'm really excited to explore this game more with you. And come check us out again for more videos on Wings of Glory.